Hello, everyone. Wow, what a packed house. So we catered for, I think, around about 60 people. There's a lot more people in the room and outside as well. This is a very, very important and popular topic. And so welcome to the second Green Shoots of the year. For those that don't know, Green Shoots started in 2020 to bring together communities during the pandemic. And so it was largely there to support the founders that were going through a tough time. Since then, it's evolved to be a cause for change and a cause for new developments in financial services. And this group here is testament to that change. And so today, we have a great sequence of content for everyone. And we're going to focus on how we can overcome the financial sector's AI and data analytics talent shortage. So it's a problem that the whole world is currently facing. And it was highlighted in a survey last year. So, my name is Pat Patel, and I will be the host for this very important Green Shoots. I lead Elevandi, a company that was set up by the MAS over a year and a half ago, which is focused around fostering an active dialogue between the public and private sectors to advance FinTech and tech in the digital economy. And so a lot of the things that we've been doing has been around expanding our reach into new geographies. And so more recently, we've expanded into Africa, and we're looking to have a partnership with the Kigali International Finance Center, which is going to be focused around inclusion and implementation of new technologies, as well as scaling fintech businesses. It will serve as a bridge for those in Singapore to hopefully export and grow your businesses into the Africa region. The second platform that we have is the Point Zero Forum, which is based in Switzerland. And so as a partnership with the Swiss government, we are having a policy tech dialogue, which is very relevant for this audience here. And so we're going to be focusing on artificial intelligence, digital assets, and also sustainability. And so these are three key policy and technology dialogues that really need to happen, because we need these communities to come together and advance how we use this technology, how we adopt this technology, and how policymakers and regulators can really think through and be a part of this journey as well. And then the last platform we have is the Singapore FinTech Festival, which I hope everyone here knows about. It's the biggest and the best and the most impactful platform in the world today. It brings together policymakers, regulators, heads of state, as well as the industry sectors to really define and frame the future of financial services. And this year is going to be super special for everyone here in particular, because our focal point will be around artificial intelligence and a number of other technologies that are really shaping how we live, how we behave, and how we work in today's environment. And so we're going to have a number of kind of zones that will be involved, and artificial intelligence will play a key role in this as well. So we're hoping that we can drive greater adoption, but also bring in more talent, as our partnerships with universities will be a key part of this. And so if you're interested in any of these kind of platforms or geographies that we're going to, please reach out to myself or my team, and we'll be happy to share more. And so on that note, it's a great pleasure to introduce a man that needs no introduction. I think he's blushing a little bit right now. He's also the chairman of Elevandi and the chief fintech officer. It's a person that's played a key role in the growth, education, and international developments globally. So please welcome the chief fintech officer, Sopnendu Mahanti, to the stage.
Pat, good afternoon and warm welcome, Senior Minister Tan. If I can say that he's one of the most kindest and humblest person I have known when I come to Singapore, and good to know him before he was a minister at the IMDA. Always a pleasure to work with you, more as a human being. So thank you very much. Distinguished guest and some friends here who are past colleagues also. This AI topic, which has become quite popular now thanks to ChatGPT, MAS particularly has been somehow, this is serendipitously, has played a very strong role last 2-3 years without realizing that ChatGPT is coming very soon. And part of our desire to establish ourselves as a strong AI hub was from this desire that we want to build Singapore as a responsible AI hub keyword, responsible AI hub. That is our niche area. That's where we want to focus because AI is such a big topic. We can get lost in that whole big subject and get nowhere. So we decided, at least from a MAS, from a financial sector regulatory perspective, that the area which we do well will be the responsible AI, and partly because of our heritage as a very credible global regulator. And if we can provide that regulatory framework and get tech companies to work with us and develop this open source code, we become truly a global responsible AI hub. And to that, we started a program called Veritas 2-3 years back. Many of you in this room are part of that journey. We are so proud that we were able to publish open source code. We have taken use cases along with you to demonstrate that any AI company selling solutions globally can adopt some of the FIT principles which we have. And as you know, I don't have to explain FIT principles: fairness, ethics, accountability, and transparency. And I saw SAS here, and they were the first company globally to actually take it and make it as part of their software stack. And I was told many other companies will follow us, follow SAS and taking the FIT principles, making it as part of their code design as they deploy AI in market. So from that perspective, Singapore, MAS, has taken a step ahead of the game. We are happy that ChatGPT came in. We don't have to sell AI anymore. Banks will love to be part of those interesting ChatGPT opportunity. But given we had a head start here, Sichun, who runs our AI team in MAS, also went forward and will announce in Zurich something interesting by partnering with the big tech companies who are now deploying generative AI. I don't want to front run the announcement because ministers are going to make an announcement. It looks bad, I say now. But something big is going to be announced in June at Zurich .0 Forum, where the big deployer of generative AI will work with us with our FIT principles and start converging those AI tool development. And then truly Singapore becomes a global hub for responsible AI. So I'm using the word responsible AI repeatedly just to get into our head that that's what we want to focus on. Now, if you look at the global market, today morning I was reviewing the numbers with the team. It's a $1.2 trillion market by 2030. And financial sector particularly will actually hold around 20% of that market share. And if you look at Asia Pac alone, it will be also around 20% in terms of global market value. So Singapore, being small and quite subscale in that sense, we got to be very careful what we are going to play on, because we can't have a large development center here with 10,000 people working on AI. That's not practically possible. We got to figure out how to work in a way that we are focused, we are valuable in the value chain, and also being sharp on what we do. I asked the team today that where are these programmers coming from? China, India, almost half of the AI programmers. And the Chinese program in China are largely going to be focusing on the China code base, which is for the country itself, and the rest will be globally mobile in that sense. They can move along. So we are talking about a very scarce resource. And in fact, China today, 70% of global AI patent is filed by the Chinese program tech team, right? So am I correct? 70%. So China is way ahead in ensuring the IP progress in the AI journey, but their resources are already going to be consumed by their own market. So they have little supply to be given outside China. So rest of the resources, if you take India, China out, their own market demands those resources. We really have a serious problem. That doesn't mean Singapore can solve that problem, even if we want to be an AI hub. We've got to figure out what works well for us. So I think if I keep that as a context, being focused on responsible AI makes sense for us. And there are three areas which we could work very well. One is being experimental. Anything to do with AI experiments, I'm talking of financial sector, where we need to bring regulatory thinking to the code base we should be a leading hub. And I think given our size and the source we have for AI engineers, we can do a very good job in that. Second, we should be able to fund globally in terms of investment to good ideas which is looking for commercial scale out of Singapore. And third is that we are good in telling our story. So if you are with us, you can join this lovely Elevandi network, and we will export you to Africa, Europe. Next year, I'm going to put something in Latin America as part of the network of Elevandi. So we will tell your story along with you to the global market. So to end my intervention in this space is that we have a serious challenge in terms of resourcing. We know that we cannot magically fill it. Same time, we can't become a global AI hub. It's just impossible because there are different kind of skill set required for different kind of jobs. And especially financial sector, if you look at all the trend, almost every function of financial sector requires AI, from front office, middle office, back office. Out of that, bulk of the programming resources will come from India, China, and other markets. So forget about that resource and those strength to carry on. What we can focus is what I just said, experimental, responsible AI, and we don't need a lot of people. We need high quality who understand the sector well and who understand the responsibility of AI to be ethical, accountable, transparent, and fair. So with that, I'd like to invite Senior Minister Tan to come here and share with us what he's thinking. We can have a chat GPT querying what he's thinking, but I have not done that today. I would have done it before you walk in here. Thank you.
Mr. Sopnandu Mohanty, Chief FinTech Officer, and SOP to many of his friends. Dr. Lee Xu Chun, Head of AI Development MAS, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm glad to see many familiar faces and friends here today. So as SOP has mentioned, AI has really captured the public's imagination in recent months. And all of us will be very familiar with ChatGPT. So in a way, we solved half of Sopnandu's KPI. We don't have to sell AI too much. It sells by itself. Now it's actually what to do with it. And developed by OpenAI, ChatGPT has demonstrated AI's ability to seemingly engage in human-like conversations and quickly generate written content. Tech giants like Microsoft and Google have jumped on the AI bandwagon, introducing AI-powered search engines, and some say reigniting the internet search wars. But beyond these established tech companies, there is also a proliferation of AI-powered tools created by startups, ranging from AI-powered video creation tools, automated music generators, an AI tool that automatically simplifies complex legal language into something that laymen can understand, and even a tool that allows you to animate the faces in photos. I'm waiting for the AI tool that replicates MP, a member of parliament. And one day that I think solves many of our problems. AI has indeed become a driving force in reshaping our society and workforce, and has revolutionized various sectors from healthcare and transportation to finance, education, and even government. In fact, part of my speech that I just read out just now was composed with the help of ChatGPT, and I'm very sure that you can't tell which ones are those. Businesses are also turning to AI to drive innovation and productivity. We see many examples in the financial sector. Banks leverage AI to process large amounts of data to predict market trends, currencies, and stocks, as well as to detect fraud. AI is also used to automate routine tasks such as account balance inquiries, password resets, while providing customers a conversational banking experience. And more recently, a Forbes article highlighted that banks are using generative AI to create new customer segments based on their banking behavior and to analyze conversations between a customer and a support agent so as to able to upsell and cross-sell products almost in real time. While we see an increased attention to AI in recent months, AI technology, in fact, is not new. In fact, when I studied computers more than 25 years ago, almost a quarter century, there was already discussion around machine learning and AI, but it's really taken off in the recent years. In fact, the government itself has been looking at AI as an important force for transformation. It has implemented the National AI Strategy since 2019. Under this strategy, the development of AI talent was identified as a priority. And we've seen made good progress. The Tech Skills Accelerator, or TESA for short, has placed and trained more than 2,600 individuals in AI and data analytics job roles since 2016. AI Singapore, or AISG, has also partnered companies to train mid-career Singaporeans to take up good AI-related jobs. Over 230 AI apprentices have been trained under AISG's AI apprenticeship program, with about 90% receiving more than 2 job offers, and recent batches receiving salary increases of close to 25% of their last drawn salary. So very successful program, 90% receiving more than 2 job offers, and recent batches having salary increases of more than 25% of their previous drawn salary. To meet the strong demand from both industry and Singaporeans, AISG plans to double the number of AI apprentices trained over the next 5 years. Some Singaporeans have asked me, they heard about recent layoffs by big tech companies like Amazon, Meta, and Twitter, and they ask whether there are still good opportunities in the tech sector. My own view is that there is great demand, especially for AI tech talent, especially those with AI expertise. This demand for AI professionals will continue to grow, especially for those in domains like financial services and logistics and healthcare. For example, McKinsey's latest State of AI report highlighted that the global tech talent shortages show, and I quote, no sign of easing, unquote. And this is impacting some companies' plans to adopt technology for their work processes. A recent Bloomberg report also highlighted that acute shortage of AI talent around the world, resulting from an increased interest in the technology following the introduction of AI-powered programs like ChatGPT. So what do we do? Government will continue to partner the industry to ensure that in Singapore and our workforce will have the necessary skill sets to seize such opportunities in AI. Therefore, I'm very happy to announce that the launch of the AI Intelligence and Data Analytics, or AIDA, Talent Development Program, and the AIDA Talent Consortium, which will support the program's work. The Talent Development Program aims to increase the supply of AIDA talent in the financial sector. This is part of the National AI Program in Finance, which was launched 2 years ago in 2021. For the Talent Development Program to succeed, the government and industry need to work closely together to understand the specific needs of the sector in order to introduce targeted approaches to close the current gaps. This is where the Talent Consortium comes in, consisting of various financial institutions, established training providers, and the institutes of higher learning. The consortium will inform MAS of the talent needs of the financial sector in various AIDA-related roles. Through the consortium, MAS will also be able to work with IHLs and the training partners to develop specific programs to address the current skills gaps. Another value add of this consortium would be its ability to develop practical resources, such as real-world cases and real-world case studies for training and learning. Such government-industry partnerships are essential to ensure that the right interventions are introduced that will address current AI talent constraints. Such a platform will also allow MES to work with FIs and stakeholders to enhance and co-curate training interventions to improve the industry relevance of curriculum. So in conclusion, let me wish MES and the members of the AIDA Talent Consortium a meaningful and successful partnerships. As shared by my good friend Sopnamdu just now, the opportunities are immense. And for Singapore to remain a hub of talent, hub of innovation, hub of activity and vibrancy that is relevant for the global marketplace, there is where industry and government partnerships are going to be very critical. And in this little red dot, I believe that by working together, our ecosystem partners, stakeholders in the financial sector, with government, private sector, as well as training institutes and iShells, we can create a vibrant ecosystem for AI talent, innovation, experimentation, and creating many good jobs and opportunities for Singaporeans. So I thank all of you for support and look forward to hear many exciting developments upcoming in the Point Zero Forum and certainly end of year, the FinTech Festival. Thank you very much.
Thank you, SMS and Chief FinTech Officer for this wonderful speech and sharing. Yeah, we are experts, and maybe I just say a few words regarding this AI talent consortium. We have talked with many banks, insurance companies here, and also FinTech firms here. Talent is always a challenge to them. Some FIs told us to hire new talent is challenging. Some banks told us to keep this talent is even tough. Okay, and due to this, surge of the generative AI, more data talent is required. And another side, we talk with local universities, polytechs, and also training providers, and realize that there is a big gap. Because from FIs, they want the talent to have the very concrete, use cases, experience working with the financial data or project before. But the reality from the school, the students seldom have this opportunity. Even through the internship, the students go to the university. The student go to the FI. The quality of this internship sometimes is not good as enough as the FI expected. The reason being such as the FI in general prefer the talent in the intern for at least 1 year, better 1.5 years. But the reality normally 6 months or even shorter. Second, because the FI currently already short of talent, right? But for this kind of internship, they really require some so-called mentorship to help to teach the intern. But the reality is FIs don't have resources to really handhold and teach them. And you see, there is a big gap. Okay, a lot of demand need, a lot of training needed, but the students have a less opportunity to learn from experience, and the supply of student is also limited. We also explore with the global talent providers from China, from India, or from other countries. Again, there's a challenge such as our immigration policy, such as a very high living cost here. One example, we are talking with quite a number of very strong AI firms from China and India. They told us they are very keen here set up in Singapore, but once they set up the office here, they realize that to hire the talent is tough, to pay the talent is even tougher. So due to this reason, after 6 months, if they realize that they are not ready, then they probably have to go back to their home country. So you can see there may be some areas, especially for the overseas talent, how to attract them, make them really work here. We should work together. So in short, for this AI talent consortium, we really want to work with all the stakeholders, right? From the FI, university, training providers to address this challenge. Okay, I think the next step will be sign the MOU, and I assume the people will help to move the table. Okay, so first of all, let me introduce Sabnandu Mohanty, the Chief FinTech Officer from MAS, come over to sign the MOU. Okay, thank you, Chief. Yeah, you can.
IBON, IBON, who doesn't know IBON? So IBON is, IBON, it's your responsibility now for the banks to accept all AI solutions from here. Done. Thank you.
So next, let me invite Koo Sing Min from the AI Singapore come over to sign the MOU, please. Thank you. So next, let me introduce Dr. Kai Singh from Arabic Asset Management Singapore. So next, let me invite Vinaya Bhatt from FactSet UK Limited. Thank you. Next, let me invite Asa Ho from Nanyang Polytechnic. Next, let me introduce Professor Susanna Leung from Nanyang National University of Singapore. Thank you, Professor. Next, let me introduce Patrice Chun from Nanyang Polytechnic. So next, let me introduce Anthony Chu from NTUC Learning Hub. No problem, thank you. Next, let me introduce YIV from OCBC Bank, please. Next, let me introduce Jack Lim from Singapore Management University. Thank you. Next, let me introduce Richard Low from United Overseas Bank. Thank you, Richard. Last, let me introduce Ken Wang from Visa Worldwide Company. Thank you, Ken Wang. Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we finished the MOU signing. Okay, so yeah, let's welcome all the signers come over here to have a photo together. SMS, please. Mrs. Song, do you want to? Yeah, because you will push all the bags, right? Yeah, you can see it.
Wow, that was fun. So now we have an exciting panel for you, and I'm going to introduce the moderator, who is Dr. Eric Sandersham. He is the co-founder of data analytics consulting firm Red and White Consulting Partners. He was formerly analytics officer at Citigroup or Citibank Asia Pacific, and he consults on a number of major projects with banks and corporations across Singapore and the region. So please come to the stage, Dr. Eric.
Okay, let me introduce my esteemed panel. I think you can come up as I introduce you. Maybe let me call on Ms. Ivy up from OCBC, right? So Ivy heads up the learning and transformation team in OCBC, right? She ran the OCBC campus for the last 7 years. And she believes that learning is best sustained through the development of strong learning organizations that supports autonomous learning and communities of practice. Right? She's also an advocate for experiential and immersive learning experiences that supports the practice of competencies. Okay, I'm just going to put on my old man's glasses. I realize I'm struggling a little bit. Okay, my next guest from UOB, Vikas Verma, right, the head of strategic HR. So in his role, Vikas leads a diverse team to design and implement HR transformation programs with the vision to future-proof its people and organization. Vikas is also a member of the Group Data Management Committee, and prior to UOB, Vikas has over 2 decades of experience across industries in areas like HR strategy, HR technology, employee experience, and strategic workforce planning. Right? My third panelist, Mr. Anthony Chew. He's outside. Great. So Anthony is the Chief Core Skills Officer at the NTUC Learning Hub. He's currently in charge of horizontal tech skills as well as critical core skills training programs. Prior to this, he had worked in the education and training industry for the past 20 years, right, holding various functions. My next panelist is Miss Lim Sin Yin. Right, she's the Managing Director and Country Manager for SAS in Singapore, and she's a veteran of the tech industry. She's passionate about building teams and business with a growth mindset. Now, SAS is currently collaborating with education institutions to train and develop AI and data analytics talent, and most notably for the financial industry through its IMDA data science program. Last but not least, Mr. Khoo Seng Ming from AI Singapore. Right? So Seng Ming is the Senior Deputy Director and Head of Alliances and Partnerships for AISG. AISG's charter is to catalyze the diffusion of AI into Singapore's ecosystem and accelerate adoption by companies by supporting AI model training and deployment and scaling AI engineering capabilities and capacities with schools and institutes of higher learning. So AI Singapore incidentally also created the first national assessment and certification framework for AI certified engineers, right? So these are my most esteemed and very distinguished panelists, and I shall now subject them to a little bit of interrogation. Okay, let's get the show on the road. So obviously we are all here wondering about the state of AI and data analytics talent, AIDA or AIDA, depending how you want to pronounce it. Maybe I'll shoot open the first question, and anyone feel free, jump in, wrestle the question away from your fellow panelists. That's perfectly fine. I'll just start with the first broad question about the insufficiency of AI data analytics talent within the financial industry. And is this insufficiency a problem of the entire industry, or rather the entire country landscape? We are just short of people, right? Or is it much more pronounced for the financial industry? And is it not so much just about the supply, but are the FIs also unable to attract such talent? Because I've heard, for example, a number of data scientists say, well, the work is not so exciting. The big techs are a little bit more sexy, right? There is also this challenge with, well, maybe the financial industries are very control and compliant, and it's very suffocating, and we want to be able to do all this sexy stuff, but there's a lot of rules, responsible AI, right? So maybe, if you could share your thoughts, right? Where is this insufficiency stemming from? Is it the attraction challenge? Is it a retention challenge? Is it a culture fit challenge? Or something much more, right? Maybe Ivy would like to go first?
That's the risk when you sit right next to the moderator. It was either this or that. So. Basically, I think if I classify AI talent or AIDA talent. I think that's what I call the deep AI, the geeks, right? And then the common man, and I count myself as a sort of like a, citizen AIDA talent, right? I know enough about it, but I'm not, hardcore AI talent. I think generally for the FIs, maybe, because you have a different perspective, but I think the talent is there. Talent is there. I think what we're grappling with is the upskilling of the workforce. I think there is insufficient, especially among the 99% of the workforce, an insufficient understanding of what really AI means, understanding how it works. I think there is a tendency to fear or even fetishize, AI, and I think when you see ChatGPT and the things it can produce, when we don't have a deep enough understanding, I think there is fear and concern. So I would say that it is less about the head count or the manpower. I think we do have talent, but the talent needs to be skilled so that it understands what AI is and have the ability to recognize opportunities as they present themselves. To your question on culture, I think there's a little bit of that. And I think it was Nandu who said that, we needed to be entrepreneurial. I think banks can afford to be more innovative and entrepreneurial. Yeah.
Thank
I'll
you,
leave
Irene.
Vikash to speak more on that.
Actually, I agree. I think it's a global issue in terms of because it's an emerging area and there will be a talent shortage just because there's a very high demand, and this is not a field that has been ongoing from a training perspective for many, many years. So financial services, and I think as was highlighted that 20% of the AI market will be in the financial services. So there will be I don't think it's just because of financial services, but because it's a big user, there will be a demand supply gap. But actually would like to build on what Ivy was mentioning in terms of the awareness. I don't see, maybe before I go there, what I've seen is especially the mid-career professionals, some of the places where we've seen through when we kind of look at, the professional conversion or really moving people from one area to another area. In AI and DA, what I've seen is that sometimes there's a lack of understanding of what I'm getting into. And when they get in, then they realize that this is not an area for me. Because it is not just a subject, it's an ecosystem, it's a very multidisciplinary field. And hence with this, I go back to the earlier point that I wanted to make is, I see AIDA as an ecosystem that needs to be created, where the business leaders, the general user, non-AI user, or let me just say it's end user, first has to understand what is the tool that we are going to use now, how I can use it. And then the engineers that we need to generate those tools, we can make the best use of them. Otherwise, they come in, they don't get the right support or the ecosystem, and then they drop out. I think that's at the middle level. But of course, we have to focus on the foundational and the grounding skills as well. But yeah, I think to your question, I don't think it's just because of financial services. Everyone is asking for it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, Anthony.
That's the reason why I sat here, right? Well, so during the COVID period when we were doing the SGUS programs, the number one sought after programs or the job role is data analyst, number one. And now when we are doing the skills career conversion program, it's again number one. Why so? Because I think it's pretty tech light, and people like me, not a tech geek, right? But I have business domains, I understand business, so it is somewhat easier for me to pivot into data analyst job role because I need to make sense of the data. But why there's that shortage? Probably what we need to do, and I think the purpose of this consortium is to really co-design, co-develop some of these programs together, so that actually when we train these learners, then we can train really fit for purpose job roles for the specific banks, and really to make them FI ready. And I think another thing that we should do also is, like you said, multidisciplinary, right? So it's not just about AIDA, it's not just that, but to really understand, like, business acumen, financial acumen, and also a lot of different thinking skills that is needed, critical thinking and system thinking, design thinking, whatever. It's really multidisciplinary. So I think we really need to train them in this area so that they are ready when they join this FI. So I think if there's a better curated program, I think then, hopefully the supply of these people to the FI will be better.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's a good segue for me to introduce my program, because it talks about if there's a good program that we can train the talents, AIDA talents, and then feed them into the financial institutions. So SAS Institute is a leader in AI and business analytics. We are privately held. We have been doing this for 46 years, long before AI becomes as hot as it is today. So I'll just talk about two specific programs we have been running for more than 10 years. One is focusing on the upstream, meaning training the undergraduates, the young learners. And the other one is really feeding the talent to the financial industries, as well as other government, as well as other institutions in Singapore. So let me start with the first one, which is training the young talent, right? So we collaborate with educational institutions. In Singapore, we specifically work with a number of polytechnics, as well as universities. The SAS software is used as curriculum delivery for some of the full-time courses, as well as part-time courses in applied data analytics, business analytics, and so on. And also in the university for undergraduate courses, as well as postgraduate courses. So basically, through this training, you can see that we are addressing the development and training not only for the young undergraduates, but also for matured learners and mid-career professionals. Mid-career professionals through the part-time training courses that the poly offers, as well as the postgraduate courses that the university offer. And we've been doing this with polytechnics as well as the universities for more than 10 years. Okay, so the second one I want to elaborate a bit more is on the talent training, as well as feeding them back into the financial institutions. So this is the part where Anthony mentioned earlier, right? So with the support of IMDA, through the CLT program, company-led training program, we've been running this IMDA data science AI ML program for more than 10 years. Okay, so this is a 10-month training and attachment program where we take in fresh graduates from university and then enable them and jumpstart them into the AIDA career. Okay, so this 10 months attachment program starts with a 4-month full-time training by SAS onto the participant. So in these 4 months, they'll be enabled on the end-to-end analytics skill sets using both SAS tool sets as well as open source tool sets. Okay, so they will learn all the way from the data management tools, how they can assess the data, transform the data, and then to do the analytics, and then how they can build AI ML models, and then how then they can generate insights out of the data sets that they have for the problems and the use cases that they are trying to solve. So this is a 4-month full-time training that SAS will provide to the participants. After the 4 months, a participant will go on to a 6 months on-the-job training with another company, and in this case, it can be a bank. And definitely, UOB is one of our participating members in this AI/ML consortium, where they will take in these AIDA talents. So, in the last 2 years, actually, we have been providing and introducing these AIDA talents of about 40 people in the last 2 years to the whole of Singapore. And we have been running this also for more than 10 years again, right? So we would like to think that we have contributed our little part, to growing the AIDA talents in Singapore, because we have been running this for 10 years. And actually, currently, we are in talks also with IMDA to expand the cohort intake to be beyond just the fresh graduates from university. We want to expand it to also include poly graduates. We want to expand it to include mid-career professional. We want to expand it to include matured professionals. So we are currently in talks to expand the cohort intake.
Thank you. Maybe I'll. This is a nice segue to pose directly a question to Ting, because of the role in AISG, right? And so since we sort of nicely sort of pivot into the educational space, I want to maybe have you kick off and get your thoughts on how the nurturing of this broader ecosystem of what we call AIDA talent. Actually, the word itself, personally, as a data scientist myself, it's a bit of a misnomer because it's sort of very narrowly defines the kind of talent. But anyone who's done any work on the ground understands that actually it's quite broad, this range, right? You have folks who are, let's say, business analysts. Now you have people who are doing visualization, who also count themselves as part of the data analytics community, AI engineers, MLOps engineers, and so you got now 5, 6, 7, 8 types of different roles that have emerged. How do you see the educational institute sort of nurturing that broader ecosystem, having a role definition, and with each role, perhaps they may even have different unique skills and competencies, against them that need to be sort of developed independently as well. Yeah.
I think we are quite at an inflection point with generative AI going mainstream. Right. So many in the AI field say that this is the birth of a new AI spring. Right. It's good for all those researchers, people who want to publish paper. But when it comes to businesses, we face a challenge. How do we scope our work? How do you scope the responsibilities? How do you... Mike. How do you scope the responsibilities? And therein lies the challenges which educational institutions face. Because education institutions will look at what are the needs of the industries and structure a curriculum to best fits the need. What happens when you are facing ever-changing needs? You are facing ever-changing requirements, and even the businesses are having difficulty crystal balling. So this is where an idea of a consortium coming in with a direct feedback loop from industry demand back into the ecosystem itself can help to at least mitigate the problem, because we are facing new opportunities, not just challenges. And how then do we actually transmit that opportunities into what we want the education institution to produce for us? And the thing is, every time a curriculum is set, it has to run for a couple of years itself. So is there a way for us to introduce more and more flex into what is being taught? Traditionally, the polys and the ITs are extremely good at that, given that it's a very practicum-based type of curriculum itself. So I think we will be able to see that by building more ecosystem linkages, for example, as a start, the AIDA consortium, we will have a mechanism where we, as business owners, organization leaders, feedback what we need from our own perspective as people coming into work into what we want the education institution to produce as quickly as possible.
Okay. I think in the side conversation we had last week, Vikas mentioned, I mean, you even have jobs that perhaps are not even fully technical related, right? So we talk about visualizers, data scientists, MLOps engineers, but with responsible AI, because you mentioned this thing about you need ethics specialists, right?
In fact, that's a point I wanted to add as well, because we talk so much about responsible AI, right? And responsible AI will not come through just domain knowledge or AI knowledge. We need people who understand behavioral sciences. How does biases, because somebody's training an AI system, and if I have a bias, I'm essentially scaling it up multiple times without even knowing. And some of these biases are at a very subconscious level. We may not be even aware of it. So that's a scary thought. So when we build this whole ecosystem, I think we really need to think beyond domain, business domain and technology, but really think of all these skills as well that is really required to create a responsible AI talent system.
Perhaps we should be stocking stop talking about job description, because job description usually don't work the moment you post them out. Maybe we should be emphasizing on what skills that is required in a particular profession itself. That makes it more flexible too.
I completely agree. I mean, with job description, many times you hire the person, like say in an AI job, and they end up doing something very different, right? Because the business also clearly is pivoting. Yeah.
Actually, I like to add to the point of multidisciplinary. I'm really for a skills-first approach. I think one of the things on AI is the many exciting opportunities that it can avail the state or the organization, but it requires people with a very entrepreneurial mindset, with a very keen understanding of what AI can and cannot do in order to capture those opportunities. Because I think specifically for our context, we're looking for AI to keep us competitive and ahead of the curve. So I think I would add, to some of the earlier points, that a very deep understanding of business models and what would make a unique value proposition. I think that's very, very key. If I can just give an anecdote, right? Because I'm in learning and transformation. So when ChatGPT came out, right, everybody said, "Oh, ban ChatGPT," right? I was really glad in Singapore that we took the reverse position, because you can't ban something like this. So, but then if you think about education or learning as a business model, I mean, you hear teachers saying that, "Oh my gosh, my assessments are useless because ChatGPT can ace and do better than my class of 400 students." And so the teachers are saying, throw away ChatGPT. But actually, if you think about it, if our assessments can be aced by a machine, then we should keep ChatGPT and throw away the assessments. So I think it's important for us to have a very good understanding of what the business model is. So in other words, in the case of learning, what is our business model? Where do the education or teachers actually provide value? And in the past, we thought it was in coming up with assessments to test learning. But if it can be aced by a machine, I think it calls into question the very value that we thought education provided, or that business model provided.
Yeah, no, I think and that's also a very nice segue perhaps to the broader point of disruption in the broader workforce. So today, for example, all banks have huge amounts of headcounts doing reporting, even the business analytics, the sort of traditional. I don't want to say that they're not relevant, but they are also increasingly feeling threatened with sort of this new, generative AI, new skill sets coming on board, and how the existing AI or the DA talent, right, feeling that they are getting disrupted. And how are the sort of the both the education institutes and the banks addressing this very big active workforce today that needs to sort of now go up the next ladder with new skills that like, for example, prompt engineering, how to even interact with the AI to get what you want, right? Yeah.
So, okay, maybe I get started. So actually it's not just for AIDA. I think 4 years ago when we launched the Better You program, which was mainly looking at a more holistic future of work, I think there was a general realization that, as you mentioned, moving away from competencies, job descriptions, are skill-based. And we have to unlearn what we have learned, and we need to get into the habit of this unlearning, learning cycle. So the Better You was actually not focused on specialists. It was, at that time, all 26,000 employees at UOB must understand a very simple thing like what is an API, what is cloud, what is data-based storytelling, right? And the reason I say this to everyone, focusing on everyone, was I take an example, and I read this in a book when I was doing my PhD, was a writing instrument was the most disruptive technological advancement by human being, because the first time we externalized a human memory on a piece of paper, or at that time on a rock or a leaf, right? Since then, all that we're doing is we are shrinking the amount of space where we can store that information, right? And I think AI is probably bringing the next shift where this pencil or writing instrument will tell me what I'm thinking, right? Rather than just writing for me. So it's a very paradigm shift, which means that we will need specialists, but just like everyone knows how to write, everyone needs to understand how this technology is going to help me or disrupt my work. If I don't know it, it will basically I'm disrupting, I'm making myself redundant in the workplace. So from that perspective, I believe that everyone needs to have the basic skills of or appreciation of AI and not just AIDA. I think it's a broader. I think we're probably limiting the scope by saying AIDA, but the whole application of these technologies to our workplace and really train our colleagues all around us, not just colleagues, I would say even from the schools, to your fantastic example of do away the assessments and keep the chat GPT, because if a machine can do it, then why should I be doing it in the first place? And I don't think there's shortage of things that we as human cannot do, right? Take an example of a doctor. Rather than trying to understand the report, you spend time with the patient and understanding what the patient is going through. So I think there's a lot of space for us humans to play, and we should, and if the machine is taking over, let them take over. But the transition may not be that smooth as I may be making it sound right now, and I think that's where most of the alarm bells are going, that the transition could be painful. So hence I think this whole focus on really skills transition at pace is really required. But again, I'll say that my caution is don't just go into a deep specialization. It's required. I'm not saying it's not required, but focus on the larger population as well.
Yeah, I'd like to address one point. You talk about the employees being threatened. Yeah. So, like years ago, I'm from NTUC, right? So workers. So many years ago, when you talk about technology, it's like, shh, the faster, this people get displaced or something like that. But I think the thinking right now is about no need to save the job, but save the workers, right?
Yeah.
So it's about the workers and not the job per se. So figure out what they are interested in. Nowadays you have a lot of very quick skills gap analysis, like where would I want to be and what are my current, job competency, what can I do to pivot, what's your adjacent jobs and stuff like that. So I think if, we can speak to, our, colleagues or workers about pivoting, I think then that's, a comfort to them, right? And also then they can do something, more valuable. The job become more valuable and meaningful.
Yeah, just want to add also that I feel that the technology vendors also has helped in a way to be more inclusive of, talents of different kinds. Like what I always say, right? It need not be only the geek and the deep tech people who can be a AIDA talent. Actually, the technology providers like SAS has come out with low-code, no-code platform. So you need not only use programming languages to be able to code an AI ML model. There are much easier ways for you to do all these things now. And we have seen that to solve a problem, you need people with multidiscipline, different domains. So the AIDA talent is really not only the deep tech and geek people only.
Maybe Seng-Ming would like to add, given that AISG has done this assessment framework, right? Just picking up from where Anthony spoke about adjacent skills and competencies and all that, what is AISG's thoughts on broadening that scope to help people figure? I may not come from a background of tech or AI, but actually I do have some of those competencies, perhaps, right, to be able to get into that space.
Yeah, I mean, AI Singapore is looking at this two perspectives. The first one is we need to build a strong core and grow the core of AI engineers, which can help in industry transformation. Because companies don't want to hire students in. Company wants to hire people who can hit the ground running. So this assessment framework that you spoke of is distilled from how we have been doing industry projects, deployable AI solutions, and translate that down into what are the practical qualities of a certified AI engineer. It was also to solve some of the HR who have approached us, because when a HR put out a JD for machine learning engineer or AI engineer, I can tell you hundreds, 200, 300 will apply. There's no way the HR or even the hiring manager can know what exactly differentiate a person from the other one. Right? So this is that perspective of a trained professional. On the other hand, not everybody needs to learn how to code. And and we talk about actually AI is a skills multiplier for you. So I'll just leave this comment to say that in AI Singapore, we don't like to talk about upskill or reskill. It sort of carry the connotation that whatever you have learned before is suddenly not valuable anymore. We use the word plus skill. So AI is nothing more than just another tool that you can plus and add to your arsenal of skill sets that you bring on board. As the world becomes more interconnected and more complex itself, actually a person possessing different capabilities, and as some augmented by AI or generative AI, this plus skilling itself will help you to differentiate. Because AI won't replace your job. Another person using AI would probably be challenging your job. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe just to end off this session, any last words that our dear esteemed analysts would like to
I like to say something. I think it's really very meaningful for this consortium. I mean we see that in JSIT, some other agencies are doing, IMDA is doing for some of the ICT sector. So I think it's really very meaningful. But in order for this to all stars must be aligned, and I think we need not have to be altruistic, but I think a strong level of trust is important. For that, I mean, for example, while Learning Hub is a vendor, but treat us as a partner, right? Only when you see us as a meaningful partner, a partner that can provide, as you articulate the skills gap and all that, right? We will figure out how to get this training program aligned to the financial institutions, right? And not like, oh, we are here to earn revenue and stuff like that. So I think that level of trust got to be there, and that commitment to want to work together to co-design, co-develop. So I think this consortium will really work. Yeah.
Thank you. If no other one,
I can maybe have one point. Yeah. I love the point about it being a force multiplier, and I think it segs very nicely with the earlier point about it being multidisciplinary. Because I do see, in the past we spoke about reading, writing, arithmetic, right? I see AI, unfortunately it doesn't start with R, okay? But it's the fourth one, right? That means I do feel that the general population needs to acquire an understanding of AI, like truly understand it. Because I do see the sort of pairing, right? I mean, we spoke about ethics and AI. There's law and AI, I mean, there's so many things that AI can be paired with. So I think there is no risk of job loss. I think, if anything, it just multiplied the possibilities. The other point I want to make is that I do feel in my experience that AI belongs in the category of a practice competency. It's not something like 1 + 1 = 2 and you have it in your head and you know it, right? You got to practice it. You have to dabble in it. You got to come up against a set of data that looks like don't know what, and then you have to spend nights cleaning out. Then you say, oh, this is what it's about. So I do look forward to this consortium because I do see that we've got together a very diverse group of people, and I think it's opportune for us to put our heads together to see how we can build a very robust ecosystem, right? To provide the community of practice, and if we can, develop mentors, I think that would be fantastic. So these are some of the things I'm really looking forward to.
Thank you. I want to take the opportunity now, maybe just to open up the floor for questions and answers. Ask them difficult questions. Yeah.
Okay, I've always said I'm just a queen of analog. Okay. And really a digital dinosaur at my age. Now, as I listen to all of you, is there aptitude of a person who can pivot to this area? And what is the fail rate like, if any? What's the aptitude for a person to be able to get into this? Because you talk about jobs and everything else, and they may jump into it because it's a future, but I may not be cut up for it. My question is, what's the aptitude? Do you all have that? And what's the fail rate? Any fail rates? Dropouts?
Fantastic question.
Maybe I just start, and I think the rest can add. I mentioned about the AI ML program. And in the AI ML program, we get a lot of interest of talents from non-computing, non-computer science degree. So their background is engineering or let's say arts even. And they join and they continue with the program and go on to join companies and continue in this data science, business analyst kind of role. And they can be successful. So I've seen cases like that, right? But to your point, a lot depends on the individual character as well as the aptitude, whether they like it, whether they want to continue to invest time to learn it. And yeah, it is ultimately back to the person. Yeah, but as I said earlier as well, there are tools that are low code, no code. You don't really have to be that technical to be able to come into this industry. I don't have data on fail rate. I don't know whether they have, but I've seen definitely candidates from diverse background joining this industry and being very successful.
Maybe I can take a stab at it. I go back to my first classification of what I call deep AI and like common man AI. I think deep AI, you probably need to have the predisposition and a certain aptitude. But I think that one, as with most specialist domains, you probably have the people who kind of want to filter into that lane. Personally, for me, I think the bigger concern will be the larger population, right? How do we equip this majority of people with an understanding and appreciation of AI? I would say that the key deciding criteria would be the level of learning agility. And I do see that as increasingly becoming important, not just when we're talking about AI, but when we're talking about all the things that's happening all the time. And if I had a wish for the education system in Singapore, it would be to really focus on learning agility as a core competency of our education system. Because without that, and Patrice, thank you very much. Eileen is really tapping on your shoulder, right? Without a very strong leaning towards learning agility, I think what's after AI, it will be something else. So I would say, I think that's something we need to work on, because a strong disposition towards learning agility rests on certain things, like high, a sort of a safe environment where failure is not always frowned upon. The experimental safe space. These are things that I believe that as a culture, we need to be very intentional about building.
Who you want to ask?
Let me just add on. Learning to learn can be difficult for a lot of people. So learning with peers, that's one way to do it. And is where some of our AISG program actually does. We have the student outreach program where the student will just grab 9 friends, form a group of 10, and they just learn along the whole, because peer will help to push you along. It can be applied also for people for people of different age group too. Another thing which we have seen when we operate Learn AI, which is a learning resource that anybody can go in, is that if the learner's just coming in to say, I got to learn AI, right, you're not going to get anywhere near. Because you're just learning for the sake of learning. You have to approach it from, there's something I want to solve, or there's a hobby I want to pursue, etc. I mean, take for example, easiest, February 14, just try ChatGPT, write me a love poem to so-and-so. Right? I don't like that word. Can you replace that word with something else? This poem is too long. Can you just shorten it or that? When you start approaching this as a applied, I want to apply the technology to do certain things, or you'll find that you'll get yourself more interested because you see tangible feedback. As for the dropout rate itself, well, I have learners who actually paid for one of the courses there and basically just stopped after 2 hours, and then after that never came back, but did come back, but probably several months later. So the way I see is, if you're just learning for the sake of learning, your stamina and your own aptitude, like you say, will only get you so far. Either get the peers or get it to achieve something that will push you along further as you want to learn.
Yeah, so I think we talk about tech-like and deep tech. There's really a lot of differences, right? So as we, of course, we're taking quite a lot of people for our SGUS and SATP program. The deep tech one, especially software development, we can see some mid-career people really, really, really stressed. No kidding. So, because it's pretty deep tech. The younger ones taking the UI UX, they tend to find this UI UX sexier, so not a problem for them. But for data analysts, we see a lot of mid-career people. I think, like people like myself, right? I'm not a tech guy, but it's okay with me because I understand businesses, I understand financial, I understand finance, I understand this. So all this is not so stressful for me because there are other competencies that I have that can value add to this data training. So I think there will be dropout, but relativity, right? The deep tech ones will have higher dropouts. Yeah.
Okay. Another question from the floor? Yes.
Thank you. I'm Manisha from SAS, and very esteemed panel here and very good insights. I just want to bring focus back to Supnendu's opening speech, right, where he mentioned about India and China being the countries who are producing a lot of AI talent, and perhaps that's very deep talent. And if this group has to focus on responsible AI innovation as a topic, what do you think are the top 2-3 areas where the investments will flow so that different generations of talent can be harnessed in the direction where the government wants to be?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Sorry, a very broad question. I hope we can generate some insights.
Which areas?
AI Singapore.
Okay, what I'm going to say is a personal thought, not so much of reflecting the view of AI Singapore right now. Another way I see responsible AI is actually trustworthy AI. And Singapore function very well as a hub. So we are a trusted hub. So in order to achieve that, what we probably want to look at would be not competing in terms of the scale of AI talent, but rather what niches do we want to build. Singapore is a command and control center for a lot of businesses over here. And when you introduce technology into a regulated industry, which finance is, it's not hard for us to find what exactly are those regulations. And therefore, we could be actually creating a new role, don't quote me, AI auditors. Engineers that can audit or certify whether a system is actually running according to the practices and the regulations of the finance industry. There is an opportunity for AI auditors. There is an opportunity for AI ethicists to come in. So as you can see, there are some opportunities that you can see shaping, and it's really for us to collectively define what kind of niches there will be.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer very broadly. Yeah, I'm not from AI Singapore. I think, it's very important for the government to identify what are needed, because they have all the resources, the data scientists and everybody, I think. So if they are able to, scan the horizon, research, have the think tank, and then share with, training providers like us, like what is the job needed to be done. And Learning Hub, right, we don't have our own faculty, but we work with best-in-class partners. We can work with anybody in the world, right? And to figure how that solution may be to address, this shortage or whatever that the government endeavors to do. So I think it's for the government to, at least share some of these thinking with us, their plans, and for us to, be the hands, legs, and put our minds together to make it work. Yeah, so that's my thing.
Thank you. Maybe just one last question. Anyone? One last tough question. Yes, please. Yes.
So, Richard from UOB. So you don't have to answer this. The other ones answer. Since a lot of the talent, and rightly so, Sopendu mentioned it was from, India and China. Given that learning and development does take time, right? Grassroots also does take time. for organizations that have an immediate need for AI and DA talent, are there any suggested sort of other countries or places we can actually, go and source that talent to address more immediate needs?
Definitely not for AI Singapore to answer.
Maybe I want to take that.
I think some of the countries that have been mentioned earlier, right? So, I mean, I think if you ask me, I think Eric mentioned earlier, right? Is it a question of getting the talent in, or is it a question of getting the talent to stay? So I think I would say hunt for the talent with the right skill set. But what is also important, especially if we're talking about responsible AI, is that we have to filter for values, because acculturation is going to be a very big thing. Because if we have a revolving door, it's just going to spend, waste a lot of our time. So I will leave it at that, But I would say that those would be the criteria I would use in deciding where to hunt and attract talent.
Yeah, I just want to add also that there's also a question of build versus buy, right? So if you have a talent shortage, maybe you can look at buying some solutions rather than building it. Just that is a position you need to always evaluate.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for your time. I think we will adjourn for cocktails, right? Yeah.
Almost there. But can we give this panel a round of applause, please? Thank you. Thank you very much as well for your time. If you could just hold fire for literally 1 minute. Take the photo. Thank you very much. We are almost done now, so please, just another minute or two more. Zuchun, would you like to come to the stage?
Sure.
I'm sure you heard this man speak earlier today. He's leading the AI initiatives within the Monetary Authority of Singapore. And so I've just got one question for you. So what next? How is MAS looking to develop talent, but also looking to take a leadership position?
Sure, thank you, Pat. I cannot disclose the detail, but some direction I can mention today here. A few things. Number one, we are working very closely and harder on something around AI strategy for the whole financial sector. Okay, it will shape the directions for the next at least few years, even decade, regarding how to adopt AI and data analytics in the financial sector. So we will announce this one very shortly in the coming probably few months. Second, as Sabnandu mentioned, we are working together with a number of banks and also ABS as well to explore the generative AI technology. There will be some big announcement by our DPM at 0.0 forum. Last but not least, I really encourage everybody here work closely with us on the talent. Okay, we will, since we are shaping this AI strategy, do discuss with us what is your need from the funding perspective, policy perspective, or even MAS, some particular things you need from us. Do use this consortium as a channel to let us know. Okay, and because that will form, as our MD requests, something like an action plan in the decade. Thank you.
So in that case, please reach out to Zuchun. He's going to be outside as well, networking. There'll be some drinks and bites, so please come and join us. The second piece I want to say is we're going to have, there's a QR code that will be sent round to everyone here. Please give us your feedback so we can keep continuing to improve. And then the last thing, a big shout out to the team that spent a number of hours bringing this together, the production folks at the back and my team who are hiding around the corner, but they spent quite a bit of time getting this together, as well as Zuchun's team at MAS. So thank you very much. Enjoy some drinks and nibbles.
Thank you, everyone.